Hi, my name is Carey. I'm the co-host of the free Tech Vets podcast, which you can hear and download at www.tech-vets.com. Myself and Mike Smith have over 50 years of technical experience working with PC repair and servers and working with customers and companies. The podcast is about the trials and tribulations of running a PC repair business, and if that's something that interests you, you can download it and listen to it for free and go all the way even back to our first episode. Today I want to talk to you about something I think is just a bit sad, and that is when someone hands me their business card and their email address is Hotmail or Yahoo or Gmail. And what's worse is usually their name, because so many people use it, it's hard to find the name. I've had people use their ham radio license address as their email address, which doesn't make any sense. You know, is that an 8 or a B? How would I know the difference? I've also seen people print out their own business cards, and that is so cheesy and hokey. I just think you'd be better off writing your name and your email address and your phone number on a piece of paper or a napkin than doing that. You know, you've got places like Vistaprints that'll print you 250 business cards, nice quality business cards for 10 bucks. I'm not getting paid by Vistaprints to say that. I'm just suggesting it because it's inexpensive and very professional looking. And you can take that a step further by having your own email address. We might call it a vanity domain. And that is your last name or your business name .com. Now you could also have .net or any of the other extensions that are available. However, the .com is the one most people are going to be most familiar with, and if you choose a name that's not a .com, people might mistype it just because it's so, you know, non-computer people will often just default to .com subconsciously. There's a lot of .com names already taken, but you can be creative about it, and it costs you less than $15 a year to have your own domain, for which you can have a website if you choose, but I won't get into websites. This is just strictly about having your own email address. And what's great is you won't have to compete for names. So if you get domaindemonstration.com, you can choose any name at domaindemonstration.com because no one will have a single name. So if you have a common name like Mike or John, you don't have to be John123 or John 2012 at. You don't have to do that nonsense. You can put your name, or if you're running a business, you can have info at, you know, etc. Customer service at. You can have any name you want. And Google makes it real easy to use their Gmail service for up to 10 users. It's basically free. All you have to pay for is your domain name. And Google will even step you through that. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to step you through creating your own domain with Google, associating it with Gmail, and then using Gmail. I'll demonstrate how you can send and receive emails through Gmail or Outlook Express or Thunderbird or whatever your email reader is. It'll work just fine through your Android or your iPhone. You can figure all that, and no one will know it's Gmail. It will appear to come from yourdomain.com, and they will respond to your name at yourdomain.com. Much more professional, very inexpensive, and just like a license plate on a car, a vanity license plate is yours to keep. No one else can have it, as long as you renew it every year. If you choose not to renew it, then someone else can grab it. And there are people out there who will grab it, who have no use for it other than to sell it back to you at a much higher price. You can buy the domain initially from Google. You buy it a year at a time, but you can buy up to 10 years. And usually the more you buy, the cheaper it gets. But again, I'm getting into much more detail than I really need to. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to start by showing you the process of getting your own domain name so you can have your own vanity email address that is uniquely yours, much more professional, and something you can have for life. You can change internet service providers, you can move around the world. You don't have to email everybody and let them know your email address has changed. This is something you can have with you for the rest of your life, as long as you renew it every year. Very inexpensive, and I think the only reason people more people aren't doing it is they don't know it's even available to do or how to do it, or it's too complicated or it's expensive. And it's very simple and it's very inexpensive, and here's how you do it. The first step is to start our browser. I'll start Google Chrome. You can use Internet Explorer or Opera or Firefox, whatever. And we're going to go to Google Apps. So www.google.com/apps. Now here you'll see it's all about business. Everything about business. But you know, it doesn't have to just be for business. It can be for personal use too. And the first thing you'll see here is that nothing appears to be free. It says there's a free trial, that no credit cards required, but that implies that after the free trial you'll be charged, right? But actually, if you go all the way up here where it says pricing, you'll see that Google Apps for individuals and small businesses, or small teams is how they phrase it, with no more than 10 users, can have an inbox size of 10 gigabytes, which is huge, by the way, and self-service online support, whatever that means. And of course, you get access to the calendar, docs, and team sites for free. Now, there are paid versions here that you can see that offer you more options, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to set up email. And the only thing you're going to have to buy is your domain. So first thing we're going to say is when we click on pricing, as we've already done, we'll click the Start Now under the free version of Google Apps. And we'll assume you don't already own a domain, and maybe you don't even know what a domain is. So because we don't already own a domain, we look over to this box and it says, don't have a domain? No problem. You can register a new domain for only $10 a year. Find domain. Okay. So here's the thing. If you go to a company like GoDaddy or Network Solutions, they're going to charge you a little bit more to register your domain, and they'll charge you an additional fee if you want to make that domain private. In other words, by default with a service like GoDaddy, the name and address information that you associate with that domain is available to anybody who does a command called a whois on that domain and can find you. So anyway, what Google does is they charge you a couple bucks less a year, and it's a private domain registration, which is great. So it protects against spam or from people looking you up, I guess, if you have to worry about that. And you don't lose any what they call DNS control. In other words, you still have all the options available to control your domain and where you want to direct it to as you would any place else. Now, initially I made this video showing how to do this with GoDaddy. When I realized Google's made this so much easier and cheaper and more secure, I've just completely scrapped that video and started over. So the first thing, maybe the hardest thing you have to do, is come up with a domain name that hasn't already been taken. And as you're watching this video, people are snatching up domain names. And every day that goes on, there are fewer domain names to choose from. And that's why they've added a lot of other extensions, like instead of just .com, there's .net and .org and .biz, etc., etc., etc. Now, back in the day, Network Solutions was the only one you could ever buy a domain from, and it was $75 for 2 years for a .com. And you didn't have a lot of choices. You didn't have a lot of these options back then. And today, for $10 a year, it's like a personalized license plate on a car. You pay a little bit extra for it every year, but as long as you pay for it every year, you get to keep it. And you can buy, with a domain registrar like GoDaddy, Network Solutions, 1&1, etc., you can buy up to 10 years prepaid. One company, I think Network Solutions, offered a 100-year domain, but what they were doing was selling you 10 10-year registrations that they would renew for you automatically, which is kind of a loophole in the rule, the 10-year domain rule. Anyway, you can pay for it year by year. You can pay for 2 years, whatever. So right now with Google Apps, they're offering us for $10 a year, and I think it's a great deal. So the hard part again is to come up with a name that isn't already used. Now, there are a number of options, like I said, but the problem is if you choose something like, I don't know, .biz, people may forget to put the .biz in. They're so accustomed to using .com. Even if you put this on your business card, something like that, they might call you and say, you know, how come you're not returning your emails, or your emails are bouncing back? And it's because they're putting in .com, they're not seeing or recognizing the .biz, it's not registering. So really the .com is more desirable to have. So let's go ahead. You can choose what you want, okay? But for this example, I'm going to choose a .com because that's what most people want, and that's what most customers are going to just by default assume your domain ends with .com. So let's pick something. I only need to do this once to show this, you know, how this works, so I don't need to pick anything real special, but let's try a few things. You could, for example, put your last name in here, unless you have a last name that's common, in which case you might have to come up with something more clever. So let's just try domain-example. We don't put the .com on it because it's already right there, and we hit check availability. And it tells us domain.example is not available. There are some alternatives they're recommending: domainlesson.net, domaininstance.com, regionexample.com. These are available, that they're just, you know, the computer's just assuming, putting some words together that it thinks are associated to help you find one. I don't like those. Let's try something else. Now you could spend hours doing this, trying to find something, and then once you find it, you better snatch it up pretty quick. So let me go through some names here, and then I'll skip forward to when I find one, because this might take a while. Okay, finally I found a domain that hasn't already been used. For this demonstration, I've selected domain-demonstration.com, and you'll see all this was shaded out before. This has all become available now, and this is all going to have to get filled out with personal information. So I'll put some sample information in there. Obviously, I'm not going to put my personal information in there for the video, and then after I get done with the video, I'll actually go back and put my real information in there. But basically, a couple of tips on picking a domain name. Now you see here on my domain name, it's fairly a long domain name. And the problem when picking a long domain name is someone's going to have to type it in whenever they want to visit your website or send you an email. And the longer your domain name is, the more likely they are to create a typographical error. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing to consider is using hyphens to separate words. Of course, that results in making the domain name even longer, but if you don't use the hyphens, you end up with names you didn't necessarily mean to have. There's a whole bunch of them, like there's Penn Island, and these are real domains. Without the dash to separate the words, you can see it forms other words that you may not really want to spell. Another one is Mole Station Nursery. And you may not want to have molestation nursery. I mean, it's things like that you have to consider when you're picking your name. And again, by using the dash, you know, for example, if I spelled out domain demonstration, it may not be clear what I'm trying to say. It could look like something about a demon, domain demon. So anyway, that's why I recommend using the dash. Now you see, since I've been playing around with this, all this became grayed out. You can't use it because those domains aren't available. So we have to check availability one more time, and that becomes lit up. So let's move on, shall we? Here it says you've got to create your Google Apps login. This is where you're going to pick your main email address. So for this example, I'm going to use Carey. Nothing here is case sensitive but your password. I just type it that way because I think it looks nicer that way. I'm going to put a password in here. And it tells me my password is weak. But for all intents and purposes, I'll go back and change it. The only thing you don't have to fill out is the organization name. Everything else you have to fill out here. So my country is United States. My street will be 123 Main Street. The second part of the address you don't have to fill out if there is no second part of your address. For example, if I was in an apartment, you might put something like apartment number 2. That's what that second line is for. The name of your city and the name of your state. I'm in Arizona. And then, of course, your zip code. So, organization size, you can decide what you want that to be. For this example, I'm going to say 2 to 9 employees because we know the free version is for less, for 10 or less. The contact name will be me. An alternate email address may be like the email that you have right now to use as like a backup email address. For example, if you forgot your password to this email address and you said you want them to email the password to you, well, where would they email it to? Well, they could email it to your alternate email address. Wouldn't do you any good to email your password to the account you don't have the password to get in to see. So I put in my alternate email address. And I'm just making this up for, the sake of filling this form out on video. And then phone number, you would put in your area code and then your phone number. And of course, there's the terms and conditions that you need to agree to. And there are additional terms for use of additional services like the other parts of Google Apps. Normally I leave this unchecked because I don't want to automatically enable free new services for my users as they become available. You might want to, but normally I would uncheck that, and then you need to click I accept to create the account, and that'll move us to the next step. Here the steps are very simple. They want to know your country and your currency, right? So that's all by default set for United States and US dollars. So then we just simply click continue. So the domain registration is the annual plan, $10 per year. So one domain at $10 per year for 12 months starting today, the day I'm making the video. You can check this box to have it automatically renew, which I'm not going to do because this is just a demonstration. You can keep your registration information unlisted. I recommend this. They want you to read and agree to the GoDaddy's Universal Terms and Services, which when I click on that will open another tab. And it goes through all of these terms and conditions. Okay? You don't have a choice. Either you agree to it or you don't register the domain. It's that simple. So we're going to go ahead and agree to it and click continue and review. So here's a summary of what we've done now. The domain registration is $10 per year. And there's no monthly charges. There's your general billing terms, the flexible plan terms, annual plan terms, domain registration terms. Okay, and like I said, you don't really have any choice in any of this, but you should read them to understand what your expectations should be. And assuming that all this looks good to you, as it does to me, click the accept and continue button. The next screen that appears is the payment plan and billing screen, and this is where you're going to set up your billing profile. So your language preference for your emails that they're going to send you when it's time to bill you is obviously it's going to be English. You can select from all the languages that they offer. And a summary of the information that was entered earlier, which I've just recreated because I need to fill it in with my real information, but obviously I'm not going to put in all my personal information in this video. But once I stop filming this, I'm going to go back and plug that in with my real information. But you do need to put your real street address, your real city, your real state, your real zip code, your real country, your real phone number. And this, of course, will be the email address that you're just signed up for using. and then click the continue button. So here's where we get to the nitty-gritty. It's all about the payment. How are you going to pay? There's this automatic payments thing which really doesn't apply to what we're doing here. So our options are to use a bank account, which you would use like a checking or a savings using the numbers on the bottom of a check, or probably the more popular way is with a credit card. And of course you've got to put in the credit card number, right, which is usually about 16 digits in most cases. You need to put in the card's expiration date and verification code, and then of course your name as it appears on the credit card. And you better make sure that your street address, zip code all match what's on file with the credit card company, or chances are it's not going to be approved. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this in with my real information, and then I'll hit submit and activate my account so that I can take it to the next step. Now that we've completed entering our credit card information and submitting that, and the next step comes up, it says, how would you like to set up Google Apps, Express or Custom? We're just going to go ahead and go Express. All right, the next screen you're going to see welcomes you to the Google Apps Setup Wizard. And we pretty much can just go ahead and click Next through all of this. Mine says that the purchase is complete. Yours may not say that for a while. It may take anywhere from 20 minutes to a few hours before your domain process is completed. And don't be concerned if you're unable to click Next, because you won't be able to until the purchase is completed. So you might just keep it on the screen and check it from time to time, and then once you're able to, go ahead and click Next. Here it's going to ask if anyone else is going to be using Google Apps. In other words, if I'm going to set up any more email addresses, I can have up to 10. Right now I'm just setting it up for myself, but if you wanted to give email addresses to your friends or family, you certainly could do that, and they could set up their own passwords, and it would all be safe and secure, and you wouldn't be able to read their messages or anything. Or if you just wanted to have multiple addresses, you could certainly do that for yourself. So I'm just going to say no, it's just me for now. You can come back to this and add users later if you want. I hit Next, and this section sets you up and tells you about getting your email addresses through Gmail and Drives and Docs and the calendar. So we're just going to hit Next, and that's what it's going to step us through. It lets you know that with Gmail you get all this other stuff, whatever. Hit Next. Choose your setup options, access Gmail in a web browser. Yes, that's already checked for us. Use other mail clients, migrate old email, access contacts. We'll get into using other mail clients later. I'll show you how to do that later. For right now, let's just go ahead and click Next. Access Gmail in a web browser. One of the great things about Gmail is you can access your mail from any standard web browser. Just open any browser on any computer connected to the internet and just go here to get your mail. So it's got this weird email address. And it tells us we can create a custom Gmail address, such as mail.domain-demonstration.com, which might be easier to remember. Well, clearly it's got to be easier to remember than this whole thing up here. So we will do that. And again, it says we'll show you how to do that later in the wizard. That's fine. Click Next. This tells you all about the Google Calendar. We're just going to click Next. For the most part, we're going to click Next through all this stuff, but I would recommend that you read through this and turn on options that you want to. My primary focus of this video is just to set you up with your own email address. So for right now, we're not going to learn about the calendar. Again, you've got this bizarre calendar address. We can change that too to make it easier to remember, but I'll get to that a little later. So we're just going to click Next. Explains what Drives and Docs does and why you'd want to use it. We're going to click Next. Tells you how to create and share a document, whatever. Click Next. This will step you through the process if you want to configure your email to have access to it through your smartphone or your tablet. So it asks you here, do you have an Android or a BlackBerry or an iPhone or Windows Mobile or other? And then when you select one of these, it walks you through how to set up or how to configure it so you can get your email through it. So I don't have any of that stuff. You might. I won't get into that in this video, but if you just follow the simple instructions on the screen, you will be able to set that up piece of cake. We're going to go ahead and hit Next. There are a number of apps that you can add to Google Apps. Again, this is something you might want to explore on your own time. We're hit next there. There's a bunch of apps. It's got over 350 more apps. It's all about the apps, so we're just going to skip past all that and hit next. It wants us to install a Google Chrome browser. We're already using the Google Chrome browser, so that's kind of irrelevant for us. The Google Chrome browser does help with Google Apps make it work faster, and includes some features that you can only use through the Google Chrome browser. So I would recommend that you use Google Chrome, but that's entirely up to you. It'll still work in Internet Explorer, Firefox, Opera, but there are some features, and it does run a little faster when using the Chrome browser with the Google Apps. So we're going to hit next. The next section is about training and support. So if you want to learn more about user training, administrator resources, and support options, again, as we click next through all this, it'll come up with those particular sections. There it is about user training. Again, if you want to learn more about it and expand it beyond just email. And it continues on with your resources as the administrator of the account, the controls and things you can enable or disable. And then the support options, which if you still need help, where you can go for online support, email support, and phone support. And email and phone support, you have to have a Google Apps for Business account. In other words, you're not going to get that for free. Okay, so basically setting up your own for free like we're doing, you're going to have to rely on online support, which is really just people helping each other, okay, along with some troubleshooting articles. That's what you get for free. Finally, we hit next again, and we're all done. It says we should be up and running, it should work. And what we can do now at this point is we can set up the system so that we can go to, instead of that long URL, if we want to check our email, we can go to mail.domain-demonstration.com. To do that, we have to go up here and click Settings. And then we're going to go over here and click Email. And you can see it says you can access your email at this long URL. Click Change URL. And then click this radio button here, and you can put your own word in here. However, if you leave it as it is, Google has already preset this up with GoDaddy, so you don't have to make any changes at GoDaddy. So right now, you have everything's been pre-configured for you. You just have to turn it on. So select that and hit Continue. Now it tells you to sign into GoDaddy and make these changes, but you won't have to do that because these changes will have already been made for you if you purchased your domain through Google, as I showed you how in this video. If you have a pre-existing domain that you're using that you want to use, then you'll have to log into your GoDaddy account and make these changes yourself. So assuming you're following everything in this video as I'm doing it, it's already been done. I've completed these steps, can be clicked. Now it may take some time for that change to take effect. Don't expect mail.yourdomain.com to work right away. It may take a half an hour. It could take up to 3 days, although I've never seen it take that long for that change to take effect. But certainly if it doesn't work after 3 days, something's wrong. But usually within a half hour or something like that, it'll work. So we can do the same thing for the calendar. If we go back over to Settings and we go to the General tab here, again, the calendar access is this long URL. It's hard to remember. We can change the URL. Again, it's already got the word calendar filled in for us. If we just turn it on and click Continue, again, this has already been pre-configured for us with the same stipulations I mentioned previously. So I've completed these steps, and again, it could take 5 minutes to 3 days for that change to take effect. So what if we want to try this to see if our email works? We'll open up a new tab here, and we'll just try going to mail.domain-demonstration.com. And there it is. So our emails have come up, and it's working. So that's just an easy way to test that. Now, when I send or receive emails, nobody's going to know this is coming from Gmail. My messages are going to come from Carey at domain-demonstration.com, and people are going to reply to Carey at domain-demonstration.com. No one's going to know I'm logging into Gmail or this has anything to do with Gmail except you. So if right now we'll close that tab, we'll go back to our main setup screen. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty of your DNS settings and whatnot of your GoDaddy account that Google has created for you, you might be asking yourself, if Google created the account on GoDaddy for me, then how do I know the username and password to log in so I can go and make changes myself? Well, real easy. If you go to domain settings, right up here, keep in mind we're at the dashboard here, okay, when you sign in. So if we go to domain settings, it makes us re-log in. Once you're here, you can click on domain names. And then there's this option that says advanced DNS settings. We click on that. And this gives us our sign-in name, password, our customer service PIN, so that we can go to GoDaddy.com and log in and make changes manually. But be careful, because if you make the wrong changes, you could end up disabling your email or your website or anything else you might have going on. So be warned, this is more for advanced users only to go in and make changes manually to the domain. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, then don't worry about it. This doesn't affect you. Again, this is if you want to go further than just doing what we're doing here with email. You can, for example, have your own website, and you may even want to redirect. If people go to www.domain-demonstration.com, I can redirect that to this YouTube video, for example. And to do that, I have to sign in to GoDaddy and make that change. But again, you can see how making this video is very difficult to keep it just focused on email, because there's so much more you can do. However, we're just going to do that. This is just about setting up email. So let's go back to the dashboard. What if I want to set up like Outlook or Outlook Express, Thunderbird from Mozilla? There's a lot of other ways people like to check their email besides checking it on the web. They have an easy step-by-step guide depending on what you're trying to configure for reading your email. Right here, if you just go back to setup, go back to set up your apps, and then under Gmail, we'll click next. And it says right here, check this box, use other mail clients like Outlook, and hit next. And then we'll hit next again. And it asks you which mail client do you want to use: Outlook 2003, 2007, 2010, Windows Mail, Thunderbird, Outlook Express, Apple Mail, or something else. So if we wanted to set up Microsoft Outlook, for example, we'll select that and hit next. And it tells you that you can use Outlook for Google Apps. However, when you're using the free edition, you have to set it up as what they call an IMAP client. And for the instructions on how to do that, just click this link, Configuring IMAP Clients. And it says Supported IMAP Client List. So if you click on that, select an option for the instructions for basically for IMAP, right? Because we're not going to be able to do the POP unless we have the paid version. Anyway, it's fine. IMAP is what you want. And it says right here, to enable IMAP in Gmail, you first have to sign into Gmail. So let's open a new tab, and let's sign into Gmail by going to mail.emaildemonstration.com, as already typed for me. And it wants us to click on this gear and go to Settings. Then it says to click on Forwarding and Pop IMAP, and then click Enable IMAP, and then click Save Changes. Okay, so that's done. We can close that tab. Now that we've done that, you need to configure your client, right? So do you want to configure an Android, a BlackBerry, Outlook, Outlook 2007, 2010, Outlook Express, Thunderbird, Thunderbird 3.0. Now on this computer, I've got Outlook 2010, so I'll click that button right there. Now these instructions are for setting up Outlook 2007 and 2010, so depending on your version, the windows may look a little different, but the information you need to fill out is still in the same places. So basically, let me go ahead and start up my Microsoft Outlook now. And because I've run Outlook before, I have to set up the new account manually. If this is the first time you're installing or running Outlook, it'll automatically ask you to set up an account. So we need to tell it we want to set up an account. And the way we do that is we go up here and click on File, and we go to account settings, and where it says add remove accounts, and we want to create a new account right here. So we click new, and we're going to put the name in, right? So put my name in. This is what's going to be displayed in the from section when you send an email to somebody. So if I type it all lowercase or I mistype it or whatever, that's what somebody's going to see who the message is from. So it's going to appear exactly as you type it to everybody you send emails to. The next line is the email address, which in this case is Carey@domain-demonstration.com. That's not case sensitive. Upper or lowercase doesn't matter. Generally, I always keep it lowercase. Password. And we have to enter the password again to verify it. Next, we click this box to manually configure server settings and click Next. We're going to set up internet email. Make sure that's selected. Hit Next. This information is already filled in, but we want to select IMAP here. And the incoming server is imap.gmail.com. The outgoing is smtp.gmail.com. We put our username in, which is the full email address, Carey@domain-demonstration.com. We'll put our password in again. And we're going to hit the More Settings button. And here we're going to go to Advanced. And we're going to change this to SSL. And we're going to change this to TLS. We need to make sure the incoming server number is set to 993. And the outgoing server number is set to 587. Okay, that's critical. If you don't have this exactly right, your email's not going to work. And further, one last step we've got to do is go over to outgoing server, check the box that my outgoing server requires authentication. It's going to use the same settings as my incoming. Click OK. We're going to click Next, and it's going to check it and make sure that it works. So it sent a test message. It's all completed. We hit Close and hit Finish and close that. Now my account's set up. It's going to log in now, and it should go and get whatever messages are waiting in my inbox. And there they are. There's my Outlook test message. And now I don't even have to go to gmail.com. I can just open up Outlook and send and receive messages through Outlook. And again, nobody knows the message came from or has anything to do with Gmail. That's just how easy that is. If you don't have an email client, if you don't want to set one up, you simply can just use the web. It's that easy. And by setting it up with what's called IMAP, you can check your email on several different devices without worrying about one getting certain messages that the other one's not getting. Makes it real easy. And you've got plenty of email space, so you don't have to worry with other free email services about running out of space, because you get like you get 10 gigs when you set this up on your email account. And if you've got more than 10 gigs of email, then I'd say you've got some cleaning up you need to do. So anyway, that's how easy it is. I hope that you found this information helpful, and I hope you go get yourself your own email address that you can keep for life. It doesn't matter if you change ISPs, it doesn't matter if you move countries, as long as you keep renewing that domain every year, or you pay for 5 years at a time and just don't let it ever expire, then you can have this email address that you selected for the rest of your life. And again, I've got 9 more email addresses on this account that I can send to friends or family. And as far as this email address, I'm not going to check it. So if you send email here, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to renew this domain. I just bought it for you guys to show you how this works. And if you go to www.domain-demonstration.com, I'll have GoDaddy programmed to redirect that directly to this video that you're watching right now. How cool is that? And of course, you can do all this yourself. I've just shown you how. And get to it. Get to work. Get your own email address. What are you waiting for? Everybody's buying up domain names as we're talking. Time's a wasting. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.